high-tech oils, available from Auto One, Sprint Auto Parts, and all leading independent auto stores.
Tasmanian Kerry Bailey is one of the true icons of Australian sports sedan racing. The 6 times Aussie champion has driven a variety of machinery throughout his racing career. The most notable is his current mount, a Chevy-powered Aston Martin DBR9. It's been over a year since we last saw the Tasmanian in the Kerrick Sports Sedan Series, but it hasn't dampened the 62-year-old's enthusiasm for racing as he makes a welcome return this weekend.
I'm back and it's very good to be here. It's been a while, 12 months actually, but I'm looking forward to it. Well, we've had business commitments in Tassie, but we're lucky enough this time to have some sponsorship from Power Talk Engines at Brendale, and they've been very good to come in and assist us, and that's why we're here today. Well, we built the Aston in 2012 and it's been a beautiful car, it really has, and it's unfortunate we haven't been able to run it, but we can only hope for the future. Maybe we'll be able to run next year, dependent on sponsorship. We haven't got our best engine in it. This one's probably about 30 horsepower down, but we were unlucky last year. We lost an engine on the Saturday and changed it, and this one's good, but not as good as it should be. There's been a few face changes, name changes, and they seem to have got a damn sight quicker than last time I was here, but I'm up against it, so we can only hope for the best.
Great to have the 6-time Australian Sports Sedan champion back on the grid this weekend. Kerry Bailey is a bit of a hero amongst the Sports Sedan fraternity and hasn't raced regularly a lot lately, but it's great to have his incredible Aston Martin DBR9 back on the road. Richard Crowell and Renato Liberto continuing our coverage from round 5 of the Shannons Nationals at Queensland Raceway. I love these cars, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, we've been spending time in the commentary box with you this year, just watching these cars again, and they're kind of very quickly becoming my favourites. Mega horsepower, big grip, big aero, they're just awesome to watch.
And Tony Ricciardello en route to a 10th championship potentially this year with a big lead. Jack Perkins had reliability issues at Winton last time out that he won one race, he DNF'd the next 2, so it's consistency for the West Australian and that amazing Alfa Romeo that is doing the business. There's the Aston Martin, the Tomasi boys, father and son, back on the grid this weekend as well. Here's how they start race 2. Race 1 was held on Saturday afternoon. It was won by Jack Perkins in front of Ricciardello, Bailey, Tomasi, Bradford and Daniel Tomasi, father behind the son in this race, with Robinson, Taunton, McLaughlin and Bright rounding out the top 10 cars in the Kerrick Series grid. So here we go. Audi versus Alfa Romeo on the front row. This is Tony Ricciardello. Watch for the eruption when they get the green light. Wheel spin from the Audi A4 with Jack Perkins. Ricciardello knows he needs to beat him into turn 1, but he can't quite do it. And Perkins has got clear road in front now.
The pace of those cars from that rolling start's just incredible, isn't it? I mean, the sound's phenomenal when you're there standing on the side of the track watching, but just watching them get up and boogie like that, that'd be a fun thing to drive.
They're like top fuel cars, aren't they? It's not so much a sound as a feeling in the middle of your chest.
Absolutely.
On board with Ricciardello. Still runs the H-pattern gearbox in this car, incidentally enough. But I suppose when you've won 9 championships, you can do whatever you like.
And that car has been so well sorted for so many years. It's one of those things, if it ain't broke, so fix it maybe.
Yeah. It's got to be the most developed race car in Australian motor racing in terms of just continual evolution to get faster and faster every year. Bear in mind, that car, in its essence, is more than 20 years old. It is a remarkable race car. Kerry Bailey going with him in that incredible Aston Martin. That is not 20 years old. That car's still very new and developed with a lot of very, very smart people behind the scenes, a lot with ex-Formula 1 experience. So Perkins leads the way. Here's the fight for second.
You can see the front of that Alfa, it's just lifting up the whole way down the straight. The acceleration is just incredible in that car. And you mentioned the H-pattern before. Something I did observe from the onboard is he's jumping from 6th to 2nd gear. And when you've got a sequential gearbox, be it paddle or lever, it actually can lengthen your braking in some circumstance, because you have to pluck every gear on the way through, whereas he's able to just jump from 6th gate to 2nd gate and make it all happen in a very short amount of time.
Kerry Bailey looks down the inside and gets it done. Nice move. The 6-time champion still got some fight, but Ricciardello hangs tough round the outside. How many championships between these two? 9 versus 6, and 9-time holds on.
Yeah, that Alpha's got some great acceleration there out of those corners. You can see also super short ratios he's running. He's obviously got them. He would know how this car performs at every track in the country. He's probably got different gear ratios set, but that thing accelerates like nothing else. It's incredible.
There's the start. You can see the big sideways movement. Watch this from Perkins. Wheel spin. And Ricciardello's jump initially, because of that wheel spin, was good. But Tony knows that he has to beat Jack into turn one, and if he can do that, he should be able to hold on at least for some time. But that Audi is just so well hooked up, and it's driven by a Supercars race winner. So it's driven nicely as well, and it's clearing off out in front while Tony fends off the advances of Kerry Bailey. Here's the Holden Monaro battle. More often than not, these two locked together on the racetrack. Victorian champ Michael Robinson under pressure from Colin Smith in the Queensland-based car.
You can see it's. I always love the, when we're looking at these cars, watching them racing. The replay just before that, they had two Monaros. Before they had an Aston Martin versus an Alpha. Yes. It's an incredibly diverse array of cars, but the performance of them is all very closely controlled, obviously by the category regulations.
Great to listen to these cars. Two different philosophies about building a Monaro too. You can see they're distinctly different cars in their design. Smith's car's got much bigger flares, probably more aggressive bodywork, but I think the underpinnings on Michael Robinson's cars might be a little bit more advanced, but in the end they ultimately lap within a few tenths of a second of each other, and you get great scraps like this.
Yeah, they're having a great old battle there, aren't they, between the two of them? And they're not hanging around either. They're still going very quick, probably slowing each other down a fraction over the mark in front. But I think if they can really latch onto the back there, they might be able to work their way past as well.
So Jack Perkins continues to lead the way from Tony Ricciardello. It's great to have the Tomasi boys back as well. They missed the most recent round at Winton with some family commitments. Expanded to 2 cars this year. Purchased the ex-Kerry Bailey Nissan 300ZX. That is the car right there. Behind it is the Holden Calibra that the family have had for some time. So Stephen Tomasi versus Daniel Tomasi, famous for that incident at Phillip Island some time ago, probably the most famous in Sports Sedan history, when Dean Randall flipped after he and Daniel made contact and a helmet was thrown and words were said. It was all very exciting. It's one of the most iconic moments in Shannons Nationals history. But the Tomasi boys are huge supporters of this category, as is Shane Bradford in that Camaro in front, and that very cool Hot Wheels spec livery.
Yeah, that's a fantastic looking car, and that's that livery does stand out a long way, but that car is just beautifully presented as well. Great effort by that team to sort of present the car to that level at every round.
That car actually raced in the Trans Am Championship in America. It's a Trans Am spec car and ran in the Hot Wheels livery. So
wow.
That is basically as raced in the United States. It's got a great history. Shane drives it really well.
I think you'd have to spec your home garage to have the clear side and the
course.
info on the back of the box,
Absolutely.
wouldn't you?
Absolutely. The fun you could have. And Tomasi goes down the inside in this 300ZX, which is a multiple championship winning car in Kerry Bailey's hands. So the Tomasi's only took delivery of it last year, and they've gone through it, rebuilt the car, and are still sorting it and getting it back up to speed. But it's great to see the Domain Prestige home team with 2 cars on the grid, and that was a good scrap. It's a different sounding car, that Camaro. I'm not sure if it's got a flat plane crank or a different exhaust, but it doesn't sound like a 6-litre Chev. It sounds more like a high revving open wheeler.
No shortage of flames belching out the side of either car as well, which is good to see.
And this is Stuart Inwood in his Trans Am spec Corvette. Not going on in the interior of this car, and he's going to retire his car. He's right out of harm's way, going to the back of the garages. That's a shame. Oh, and that's Kerry Bailey with smoke from the Aston Martin. So the old Sports Sedan cursed of cars being slightly unreliable, perhaps, starting to knock out some key contenders in this one. And Kerry, who was driving so well in that battle with Tony Ricciardello, limps back to pit lane. And that smoke looked ominous, didn't it?
Yeah, that's. Luckily it's only a short lap here, and he's got a chance to get the car back safely. But never nice to see that on such a beautiful car.
Brett Batterby there in his BMW M3 Coupe. A fast car in every respects until you put it on a grid with top-level national sports sedan runners. And unfortunately, speed is relative when you put these things up against it, speaking of fast. Enjoy this. Or not. He's got big understeer at 5, and he's got big dramas, Jack Perkins.
Looks like something might have failed there, or maybe he's done a tyre on the car, but
Look, right front.
Pull the tyre off the rim. That's a real shame. Maybe a puncture or something's led to that, but someone like Jack in the car, you've got safe hands. When that sort of thing happens in the middle of a corner, the car's going to come back, hopefully as safe as possible. Well, he's done a good job there.
A huge amount of work between rounds to rebuild this car. They had those upright problems at Winton, which cost Jack 2 race wins, ended his race winning streak at a casual 13 races in a row. But these DNFs are going to cost him big time in the championship. And he was clawing away points on this guy, who now, with Kerry Bailey out of the way as well, is handed a massive lead.
There's daylight between him and second place now. He can afford to sort of conserve the car a little bit for the rest of, for race 3 after this as well, knowing that he's got such a margin up his sleeve.
So Tony Ricciardello, it's a bit of a gift with Perkins out of the way now. He was clawing back championship points, and what a place for that to go down. So the only 2 corners on the racetrack where the outside tyres are loaded up, and that's where it happened to go down.
Yeah, such a shame. You can see just as he's turned in there, comes through turn 4, lining up for turn 5, and there it's gone there. So whether or not it's deflating before then and the curb before has pulled it off the tyre, pulled the tyre off the rim, I should say, but such a shame.
Well, the Audi back in the garages and out of the race. We hope Jack is out for race 3 a little bit later on today. That really shuffles the order up now. And Tony Ricciardello out in front. Stephen Tomasi is going to be second. This is a fight for 3rd, 4th and 5th place, and down to 6th with Colin Smith. So Jeff Taunton's in the mix. He's the only Mark Cars Australia runner in this, doing double duties with the Australian GT Trophy this weekend. Those cars are eligible for Sports Sedan competition as well. And why not? If you've got the opportunity to race in one category, why not do 2?
And those cars have been built for endurance racing. You may as well give it some miles over the course of the weekend. It'll just relish the extra driving time, no doubt, as a driver as well. So yeah, as you say, why not do both?
Actually, Ryan McLeod had planned to run this weekend in his dad Pete's Mazda RX-7 that runs that classic Pennzoil livery from back in the day, but unfortunately couldn't put that program together in time. Hopefully you see that happen later in the year with either Ryan or Pete McLeod. 87 Bathurst 1000 winner driving. It's a very cool car. And Tony Ricciardello, speaking of cool cars and cool customers, down into turn 6 on the last lap. Key rivals falling to the wayside, and it's a hallmark of how this guy goes about his racing and how the family team does it too. He might not have the outright fastest car this weekend, but he's the one winning races, and it's a victory for Tony Ricciardello. And it extends his championship lead even further over Jack Perkins. Stephen Tomasi with an excellent second, his best result of the year. Shane Bradford, Daniel Tomasi 4th and Taunton 5th. But the big story after race 2 was the tyre failure for Jack Perkins. He's down in the pit lane explaining what happened.
We got a puncture on the right front, so I don't know what caused it, no flat spots or anything, but yesterday on our in-lap we actually got a flat tyre from driving over a nail, so who knows, could be anything like that, but that's racing. We'll put another tyre on and we'll go and get him in the next one.
Unfortunately for Jack, Renato, that didn't happen. Highlights of race 3 coming up. Jack noticed a problem on the form-up grid and elected to pull out before the race even started.
Yeah, and I think somebody of his calibre has obviously picked something's not quite right with the car, not firing on all cylinders, so to speak, and it's best to just park the car.
They saw smoke coming from the engine bay, and it turned out later on that it was a cracked piston, so a real shame. No Perkins in this race. It handed it to Tony Ricciardello. The rest of the field, they still had plenty to play for. This is the Corvette.
Busy up the back here. Very, very busy.
This was a big move. Check this out as they ran down to turn 3. Daniel Tomasi on Shane Bradford.
Just as he's jumped on the brake pedal there to change lanes like that and still pull the car up. Great effort by Tomasi. Big, big move.
Shows the grip these cars have got. Big pancake tyres, I should say, to do that and change the direction with the aero as well. That was a drama. Number 32 car spinning. Michael Robinson down at turn 3. He lived to fight another day though. Tony Ricciardello. Championship rivals falling to the wayside. Another victory, his 4th for the season, and an extended lead in the Kerrick Sports Sedan Championship.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it's just about managing the problems that arise during the races, and luckily we've had a couple little ones that we can manage and finish the races, and that's probably the most important thing for the championship. So yeah, it's looking good.
It really is. There's the margin, and Jack Perkins drops further down the leaderboard. There's still plenty of racing to go. Phillip Island to come and Sydney Motorsport Park. So we know the form of Jack Perkins. Maybe he can claw his way back into contention, but those 388 points look very, very big for Tony Ricciardello. And a note for Michael Robinson running second. Don't forget to check out thenationals.com.au for more information about this great racing series. More coverage from Round 5 at Queensland Raceway coming your way in coming weeks. And join us on social media, #ShannonsNats. We'll see you next week with more action from Queensland Raceway. Coming up after the break, it's time to get dirty with the best of the best in Australian off-road racing. The Waikerie Riverland Enduro and Round 3 of the Australian Off-Road Championship. That's coming your way next.